So we have 2 rubber balls. Pretty bouncy, standard, but if I left this in here for a while, it kind of changes the elasticity of the ball, and it becomes very hard. I can pass them. So it's pretty hard, right? Yeah. And I'll do one more. And then, so if you all have seen The Bachelorette, they receive a rose at the end. So if you guys would like to feel this one, it's kind of hard and it's very, you'd have to pull it very hard to break it, in a sense. But when you dip it in here, becomes kind of hardened in a sense.
I have a real quick question.
What's up?
Why does it sizzle while it's being dipped in there?
So,
or why does it sound like it's sizzling?
So the reason why I would say is because it's kind of got the water in there and it's kind of boiling out in a sense. I can feel my inner dark side. Fresh. So you guys would like to feel the petals. They're very kind of hard in a sense.
So why did it blow? Is it because you were pressing down, or was it?
I think inside there's maybe it expands kind of the structure of it. That's actually a very good question. I've never had that before. Why it does that? Yeah.
It's like it's hard and then it goes off.
So kind of what all these would do is how we used to. Some of these kind of can stay consistent with kind of the changes. We could smash the flour. We also had a penny. And that was really cool to see how, when recent pennies came about, they changed how they were made. It used to be from copper to some kind of composite. These sorts of Department of Treasury were smashing pennies. But what it would do is it kind of show the way. We changed this because a lot of the times kids would become frightened. Kids with autism, with the loud banging we had to do to smash. So instead, we replaced that with kind of a wet cloth. And if you feel, it's pretty bendable and stuff, but if I left this in here, it's really small.
Feels so good.
Yeah. Probably all pass this around. This would last for a while. It's very hard.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's a little cold, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
It kind of tingled.
It tingles a little bit, yeah. That does actually create the most smoke of the water composition,
Right.
and that's why the flour does so well when it becomes brittle. We added the ball elasticity to kind of show how stress balls and kids would play with are unable to form when frozen, and they become like a bowling ball. And then at the end, if you guys stick around, I will be handing out frozen marshmallows for those who would like one. But we did expand that to have, because there's so many different dietary restrictions. So we added graham crackers, we added Sour Patch Kids, cheese puffs. I think if you see, sorry, this was us trying one day, and it was an absolute blast. This was, I think, me trying to Sour Patch Kids, and they made a loud crunch. So, but it was really cool because the Sour Patch Kids, they don't stick to your mouth when you eat them. Like, it kind of just goes down. But once you dipped in the liquid nitrogen, it changed, and it was very sticky in my mouth. So that was kind of funny. So the next exhibit, I would say, is a very visual learning environment, is our orbital simulator. Our orbital simulator kind of demonstrates the physics behind gravitational orbits. It kind of shows how we're able to complete all of our missions in space. Our wooden design, that if you can kind of see in the top 2 pictures, is it's kind of large and it's got a post center with a large hula hoop. But the way we designed it, it's very hard for small children and also people with wheelchairs to peek over and kind of see what's going on. So what we hope to do is kind of you see on the bottom right with PVC piping to kind of adjust the height, will allow kids to kind of understand. We also enable to live stream video kind of on the top to show how the marbles would collapse without having any thrust to give it kind of to keep going in a sense. And what we've also done is kind of it's kind of a first trial and error, is to kind of have a 3D visual for those who are visually impaired, and it would kind of, it's easier to do it on a table. It'll follow the track in a sense, and how the marble would simulate like an orbit in a sense. If you guys would pass that. Oh. And then the last one we kind of modified was our Moon Crater Creator. So with the new Artemis program, it's all the idea of going back to the moon. And what we would do is we would have a tarp with shaving cream put on it, and kids would throw a poop on it to kind of create a crater. So what people would do, we kind of move the tarp from the wall to the ground, so students could then easily drop it, in a sense. Let's say if students do not have kind of mobility in the hand, we hope to provide them a spoon where then they can simply turn the wrist or the body, and the ball would roll off onto the tarp. And finally, for those who are also, again, visually impaired, but also it's kind of just cool to show, where we will add a clay surface, and students can press the ping pong ball into the box to feel the divot of the crater. We also added some new exhibits for solar power, and this is where students are really able to engage their creativity. So we kind of went and found kind of smooth styrofoam balls, and then students are able to paint a planet, moon, or star. So this one was kind of, I would like this one because it's able to really engage students in how they want to see the solar system. So we will purchase specialty paintbrushes, where it'll provide easier access, and then the paint will be kind of dispersed into kind of like if you're going to paint your house, those type of trays. We're kind of investigating the idea of a 3D printed stand, so it will mount the ball, so if students need to apply forces, it won't roll away on them. And there are also going to be stickers available to decorate, and actually this will then go into our next activity, which is model the solar system. So what this will do is it kind of demonstrate what makes up our solar system. And it kind of utilizes these planets, moons, and stars, and we'll have tape in a large space where students then will work together with their groups to create our solar system. And we're going to kind of ensure that it may be slightly off scale, but no two groups are going to be too close together. So kind of,
Sorry.
no, you're-
So when you say teams, are the dots where the kids would stand so that they would pass the planet? Or are you talking about like, each team member would be a planet? What would your suggestion be?
So that was kind of just a picture I found at a library.
Okay.
We probably would have kind of X's on the lines of the orbits just for like where to initially start.
Okay.
And then what we would have most likely is once everyone's kind of distributed around, then we'll say, all right guys, we're gonna walk, a couple steps and then kind of see how everything would rotate. And
Okay.
you'll notice that, like the smaller orbits will kind of get farther in their orbit versus those that are farther away in a sense, and kind of showing
Okay.
where. But students will always, if I painted Neptune, they will always be Neptune.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And kind of what I meant by groups, I should probably specify, is families are allowed to attend with their kids, and if they want to bring siblings, we would be with them. They would always be with their buddy.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of what were the challenges going into creating an event like this, and what did we learn? So the biggest thing was finances and logistics. Money, 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 as Havo would sing. Wish we had more of it, but it is expensive to run kind of a disabled, redoing our exhibits, and kind of just always guaranteeing that this event would remain free. As I mentioned with my sister with autism, I knew kind of providing extra, the specialty foods, it averages, I think $10,000 more just to provide for a child with disabilities. And we're kind of in the process now of kind of investigating grants, scholarships, to kind of see where it would come. And kind of another challenge with finances was going to really how to market. People can, the football teams, they have all the money to do sponsorships, but, for us, we have to self-provide, posters and advertising on different places, and that's also coming into logistics. I think our biggest challenge was to kind of gain recognition within the Champaign-Urbana community, special education community, without kind of previous local experience. We're going to volunteer at pre-existing local organizations and events coming up this next school year to kind of build that bond in a sense, where we're able to kind of promote who we are and why our event is going to really be able to be geared towards them. So as I kind of mentioned, we are planning to do some small classroom visits to test out maybe just liquid nitrogen, just the orbital sim, to kind of see what their thoughts are and if they want any feedback, if they want to give us feedback or suggestions for next time. Once we kind of create this connection, we will begin coordinating a date for solar power. And again, kind of exploring options to clients. I have a question.
I'm wondering, specifically with the liquid nitrogen, where do you get it and how much does it cost for a bag?
It's actually pretty nice. The university does provide it free towards student groups. As long as you have the correct container, like this dewar for transport and storing, we're able to request it for
Do
special.
you have one? So how might I get one?
I would say, I don't know, outside of the university where I'd find it.
I'm a little bit.
Yeah.
I heard there was a YouTube video that delves into stuff like this,
Aeroproducts.com.
and he said that welding supply stores actually sell liquid nitrogen as well.
And what kind of stores?
Welding supply stores?
And I think some ice cream places sometimes have some, but I think finding a local university and maybe some physics science students who want to come play with your classroom might be a way to go too.
I was gonna say, probably. Yeah, that's the only thing I would say probably restriction I'm getting, but. Do you know of any other places?
Yeah, the welding supply is an option I've heard as well. I'm not sure what process they use it for specifically, but yeah, most of the welding supply shops have it. And then local universities are usually willing to work with you, and even if the university can't get it to you directly, there's almost always a student group or physics department who would actually deliver it to you or help you. So yeah, I think those two are the best options.
Just kind of some closing thoughts. Why create something like this? And I remember attending science fairs with my sister when I was little, and she tended to become pretty frightened by loud noises, flashing lights, and just by her having not a good time, I wouldn't have a good time, And it's a way to kind of engage families with special needs and really inspire them to reach for the stars, because anyone can do it, and that's how we're going to be so successful in space, is we include everybody. And I wanted to turn to the audience, to you guys, to kind of engage and give, this is learning for us too, is how do we leverage previous experience with STEM outreach and kind of adapting to specific individuals. These were our ideas, changing the orbital simulator to make it adjustable to height, but there's things we might not have thought of. And then how do we connect with local special needs communities to promote new events? Sometimes it was a challenge for us, and hearing how attending these conferences will kind of promote to you guys, but we'd love to hear you guys' feedback.
With the orbital thing, what you could do instead of having it be like a sheet is, it would be a little bit more expensive, but have clear plastic instead, and then mark out pretty much like have, like, say, this is what an orbit should look like and everything like that.
been trying to work with some maybe more ECE individuals who would know kind of maybe how to do a correct live stream and then also how to create a mount, because I don't think taping, you know.
Yeah, just duct tape.
I don't know if many people would volunteer their phones for that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I guess.
I always like to use dry ice also, because you can compare dry ice and how cold it is to regular ice, and it's a solid, so you can see it, whereas liquid nitrogen, you never really see it in that liquid form real easily, so you don't get a sense of how cold it is, and the dry ice is kind of more solid and real, so,
Yeah.
I like to play with both.
Yeah, well, they're pretty fun. And actually, if you guys would like to come up, as long I will give safety glasses if you guys would kind of like to peek over your more than two.
Related to that, I like to freeze a water balloon in the liquid nitrogen, and then they can see how fast it turns to ice versus if you put water in your freezer. And then it's also a good tactile thing.
That's cool.
I would say that the activities that you've developed are really good for elementary students in that age range. I'm wondering if you have any activities that are more appropriate for middle school and high school students?
I would say, kind of just in previous, our club history has mostly always been elementary school students. We tried last year kind of engaging a curriculum for the high school students. Some variety of exhibits. But it's just always hard, we've always felt to engage that age group. So our main outreach has always been towards elementary, but we're definitely, you know, interested to engage the older kids as well. Do you have any interests?
I do. So I think that for deaf kids specifically, they are extremely visual learners. And concrete visual activities are very helpful to aid their understanding as they're going into college. So if you have any resources that are available, so I would be willing to share the resources that I have that I use in my classroom.
That would be great. That'd be pretty much kind of all I had in to wrap up. Kind of some acknowledgements I would like to say to Anna and the entire SciAxis crew. They did a wonderful job planning and kind of working and giving some feedback. Thank you to you guys for listening as well as giving me some great ideas going back to my campus and how we're going to really make solar power a great event. To my solar power team, some of them are pictured here. They really were my backbone and listened to my craziness and my busy schedule and really worked with me to kind of get to where I can present to you guys today. Kind of our organization above, the Illinois Space Society, you know, my best friends, and they really help out. And then my friends and family, they're always my biggest supporters. My sister Christine, who really inspires me to always reach out and go out of my comfort zone, and to Brian, who drove all the way with my equipment to Illinois, So I really have to thank you for driving. And then with that, yeah, that'll be kind of it for today. If you guys would like some marshmallows or any questions for me,